So what's next? We want to talk some Frank?
Sure.
This was a big deal for me when this came out, this Hot Rats Sessions box set, because I didn't understand the way that this album was put together, because it kind of sounds like they sat up and played it live. And that, I think that's one of the reasons why this album is so endearing and so enduring, is that it does have a live kind of spark to it. But I never realized that it was recorded in sections. Like Frank would just like bring in a little bit of written material and give it to these session players, and he would work out these sessions in the studio and then figure out how it all was put together later. It was sort of similar to how Frith was putting together his Henry Cow compositions, except that Frank was using the razor blade and editing to make that work. But some of the coolest stuff on this box set is when Frank would just let his musicians go, like for half an hour or more, and then edit it down, and he would change the order of things. So like there's the song on here that's called Another Waltz. And to me, that's maybe the most impressive, most interesting piece of the puzzle, because Another Waltz is basically King Kong. It's like the same vamp, and it's same time signature and everything. But John Sugarcane Harris is there on violin, and Frank gets to blow a solo at one point. But that improv that John Sugarcane Harris did was reorganized and re-edited into Little House I Used to Live In. That jam that's on Burnt Weenie Sandwich. And when I heard this just completely opened my mind as to what was possible. It's like deconstructing it so that you can put it back together in your mind. And I find this fascinating as a fan of Frank Zappa, but it's like something I actually like really learned from. But Eric, let's talk about that book you were holding up.
This book really opened my eyes to how much Frank did on this album by himself with a razor blade. I mean, sitting at a little desk with your reels in front of you. I mean, he built this album off for that little desk. I mean, he just sitting there working with just reels and reels of this stuff, just constructing this amazing genius album. I mean, those days and that working technique of making music, I mean,
razor blades and splicing tape. Yeah.
I mean, wow. I watched my mom splice, Super 8 film, taught me how to edit film and things like that. And I'm thinking about him doing this with audio.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
It is.
There's a photo in here where Frank is at his editing desk and he can barely get his legs under the thing. It's so cramped. And he's got the take-up reels on his lap.
Wow.
And he's just kind of hunched over it like that, working on it. And what he's editing there is Peaches and Regalia. That's what he's working on right there.
Wow.
But Bill Gubbins was a Frank Zappa and the Mothers super fan. And he was like 19 years old or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he was in Youngstown and he saw Frank in like Bowling Green or something like that. And he met him and he was nervous, but he was able to talk with Frank, and Frank agreed to an interview after his show. And something happened, with the show where, Frank was kind of tired of answering questions. And 19-year-old Bill said, well, here, I'll give you a ride back to your hotel. And, here's Frank crammed in this car with Bill and his friends. They go back to the hotel. Frank says, here, check out our new album cover, and shows him the Hot Rats album.
Wow.
And he says, Bill's on his way out, and he says, well, okay, can we get together again? Can we maybe do an interview next time you're in town? Frank says, okay, Bill, why don't you fly out to LA in a couple of days and sit in on my recording sessions and take photos?
Wow.
And so, this kid borrows $250 from his parents, which is like over $1,000 in today's money. And, just takes a risk, flies out to LA, ends up at the Zappa house. And before long, he's sitting in on the overdub sessions with Frank and Ian Underwood at Whitney Studios. And then the other studio, anyway, Sunset Sound, that was the other studio that they hung out at. But like this image on the cover here, that's Frank cutting the solo from Son of Mr. Green Jeans. Like, dude was capturing history. And like he this was like right at the moment when the first Mothers were breaking up, and Frank was starting to, come into his own as a solo artist. And so it's just absolutely incredible moment in history. So, okay, Dave, you chose this one. We'll start with you. Oh, Dave's heading out.
Okay. Nope.
We'll start with you. So what does the Hot Rats album mean to you?
Oh, I don't know. I remember hearing it. I was in high school, and I'd been a Frank Zappa fan since the beginning. But then Hot Rats came out, and it just, knocked my socks off. It was so strong and so powerful all the way through it. Peaches en Regalia, that just became part of my DNA as far as composing goes. I just thought that was one of the best composed rock tunes I had ever heard, and I just love that album. That's another one that just takes me back like Stand Up does,
It's songs like Willie the Pimp, followed by Little Umbrellas. I really enjoy things like that. You've got this sort of
juxtaposition of those two things. Yeah.
How you're talking about album constructions and how things flow on an album, and how this song might really be like, what? Why is that on here? And those sorts of things, like an oddball one. I just saw some YouTube video yesterday where it seems like amazing albums that are ruined by one song. And, well, that's the album I want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
That's
very subjective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there are those sort of like perfect records, but I like when artists are artists and they pull a crazy Ivan, but they'll just make a left turn somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I appreciate bands like Henry Cow and guys like Zappa, and they do the things that are unexpected, and it keeps me on my toes. It's how my mind works. I need crazy music to calm me down.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with that comment about Frank's feel for sequencing and editing. Yeah. Very good. Yep.
There are some fans, I think, who would prefer one side or the other of Hot Rats, because Hot Rats really does show two different sides of Frank Zappa. Like Willie the Pimp, Son of Mr. Green Jeans, and the Gumbo Variations are very improvisationally based, and they're like kind of the jazz rock songs. Whereas Peaches and Regalia and Little Umbrellas and It Must Be a Camel are more the through composed compositional pieces. And, I don't really necessarily prefer one over the other. It's kind of more what I'm in the mood for. But I like this comment from Pork Butts and Taters. That's like, well, if you're into that sort of thing. But anyway, but yeah, it's the balance. It's the balance of the two approaches, I think, that are what keeps me coming back to this album in particular. But that being said, if I were to pick a favorite song, I think it's Little Umbrellas, because I just think that melody is totally magical. And Peaches and Regalia, that's the other one that's just the all-time classic from this album. But, from that other side, that improvisational side, like Son of Mr. Green Jeans, I think is just endless well of enjoyment. This is a terrific album, and I've enjoyed going back to the sessions this week and listening to it. I've enjoyed reading Bill's book, and I'm kind of just putting a feeler out here, but I would love to do a deep dive on my channel of Hot Rats, and just explore basically the original album and the remix, and then going back to the sessions and see how it's all put together. And that I'm looking for feedback here from viewers and from you guys on the panel here. But if that's something you think you could watch, I would love to put that together.
Well, I'd love to highlight Ian Underwood's work on that too, because I mean, Ian is so underappreciated, or not really. I mean, Zappa fans know, but hidden hero. I mean, Ian's amazing.
Oh, yeah. He was my woodwind keyboard hero. Yeah, I idolized what he did.
Yeah. I find that to be those two guys, that collaboration, that's the nucleus of the Hot Rats album. It's the meeting of the minds between Ian Underwood and Frank.